The moon was glistening off of the water, while the wind blew gently. All the creatures were silent, and the fireflies were flashing. There was a panic in the air. Word of a mythical monster had spread throughout the land, and some feared it was near. I'll never forget the first time I heard its name. My father warned me, just as his father warned him, and his father before that. Beware, he said. It'll be one of your life's most important missions to avoid. My father was a brave man, and at this moment, I heard fear in his voice for the first time, when he uttered its name. To avoid the Hammerdonkey. The Hammerdonkey was like no other beast known to man. It had teeth like a lion and rose like a shark. Its hooves looked like fangs coming out of the bottom of its legs, as if every step caused pain on the earth below it. Beware of the Hammerdonkey. Its body was covered in dark hair that moves even when it's standing still, which makes anyone unlucky enough to be in its presence feel like they are constantly being hunted. Its tail looks like it weighs as much as its body does, and it ends in the shape of a hammer. It uses its tail to thrash its prey and anything in its way. This brings me to its most defining characteristic. The Hammerdonkey has a pair of big old, low-hanging balls. One day, while walking between villages, as the young man was known to do when stress was high and he needed to relieve himself, the time for a nap presented itself. He heard sounds he had never heard before, which caused him to leap up from his nap. Much to his surprise, and with fear and amusement both coursing through his veins, there it was, the Hammerdonkey. The young man was scared as he witnessed all the mythical horror he heard about was true, and it was right there in front of him. However, he was amused by the fact that the noise that woke him up from his nap was the Hammerdonkey scratching his big old balls upon a tree. After the young man composed himself and made sure his manhood was properly tucked away in his slim-fit trousers, he reached for his other sword and decided to try to kill the Hammerdonkey. Knowing men the way young men did, he thought attacking the Hammerdonkey where it was most vulnerable would be the only way to overcome this beast king of the forest, and so he did just that. With one swift swing of his sword, the young man severed the Hammerdonkey's big old balls and detached them from his body. Blood spewed everywhere, on the tree, on the ground, on the young man himself. The Hammerdonkey's dark hair was now dripping red with blood. The grass was red, the leaves were dripping. The Hammerdonkey was a gusher. The young man was ecstatic. He scooped up both of those big old balls and ran back to his village to find his father. When the young man's father saw his son, he could not believe his eyes. "Son, whose blood are you covered in, and why are you carrying those two boulders?" The young man replied, "Father, I have slayed the Hammerdonkey, and these are his big old balls." With great pride, the father embraced his son and began to shout so all the village could hear, "My son has slayed the Hammerdonkey, and these are his balls." That night, the moon was glistening off of the water while the wind blew gently. All the creatures were stirring, and the fireflies were flashing. There was an excitement in the air. Word of a mythical hero had spread throughout the land, and some heard he had the biggest balls anyone had ever seen.